happen again.
This happened on Tuesday, and we know it was really hot that day. Hot car. Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you last in a hot car?
Facts that the heat index that day was 105 degrees. Hot car.
We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene. The whole thing has been a mystery to neighbors.
Hot car.
This is not an accident. This is pure negligence.
This is the 5th episode of the Hot Car Podcast.
Yes, it is.
It was really
Today,
hot that day.
we have
Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you
an
last in a
interesting
hot car?
show. For the first half of it, Hammy and I aren't even going to be a part of the program.
Are we ever part of the program?
Well, we'll get with the program one of these days.
Hot that day. Hot car.
So,
Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you
Alexei,
last in a hot car?
who's going to be interviewing a young lady by the name of Natalie, who's going to be talking about the Elk River Troubled Teen program in Huntsville, Alabama, and what she went through there and kind of what they say it's all about. And we're going to get a second look at this Troubled Teen program and kind of do an investigation on what that's all about, especially for people who don't really know. So they're going to be calling in a few minutes, I think. And after that, I mean, maybe, I don't know how much of a nightmare that's going to be, but maybe we'll try to lighten the mood after that interview, because I guess it's going to get pretty dark.
Looking at the website.
Yeah.
It could.
The Elk River Teen Treatment Program.
You got treatment
And,
centers.
Right now, we're not really saying anything about it at this point. We're going to let the experts
Correct.
speak about that, and I'm going to see if they can call in now to really give us an idea of their perspective and what happens at programs like Elk River Treatment Program and Billings. Where is it?
It's in Alabama.
Oh, excuse, Huntsville, Alabama. There was another one. Pardon me.
On Tuesday, and we know it was really
Welcome, guys,
hot
to the
that
Hot Car
day.
Podcast. This is
Hot car.
Alexei and Natalie, the people that we were just
How long did you
speaking
last in a hot
about
car?
before they called in, and they are going to be shedding some light on
The Elk River Treatment Program.
right and what's generally known as the troubled teen industry in general, but specifically this particular treatment center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yes.
Alexei, take it away. So what we're going to do now is really just mute ourselves and let you guys handle this interview, and then after the fact, maybe if there's because Hammy doesn't really know anything about this stuff at all, which is interesting. Maybe at the end of your discussion, you can open it up to like a Q&A thing if he has questions about kind of what's going on, because he really is kind of a blank slate when it comes to TTI and everything about it. So this is a really good opportunity, right?
I would love
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, sure. So I'm going to mute ourselves, and we're probably going to take a quick break while you guys chat for 20, 30 minutes or whatever, however long it is, and we'll be listening.
Okay, cool.
But we're going to be muted, just to let you know.
No problem.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
Why don't
as
we
well.
start with what do you define as the TTI? What is the TTI?
So I think that any program that lists itself as treating troubled teens is considered a TTI facility. But more something that I've noticed that is in common with most of these facilities is the list of things that they treat. Like in Elk River, the list is extensive. They treat every mental disorder you can think of. They treat obesity, video game addiction. There are children there who are court ordered. So it's really just, oh, we fix all of your teenagers no matter what's wrong with them.
Right. And how could you just tell me a bit maybe about how you ended up at Elk River?
Yes. So at a pretty young age, I was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder. And as of recently, I've discovered that it's actually autism and possibly ADHD as well. And because I lacked those resources, I really did go through a pretty bad depression. I didn't receive the correct help. I was in and out of hospitals, but it just wasn't what I needed at the time. And when I was, 15, I ended up trying to overdose myself, and at that point, my mom decided that a good place to be for me would be a wilderness treatment program.
Gotcha. And so maybe you could tell me a little bit about your entry into Elk River, how you got there, what your first day was like, and generally what it was like at Elk River during the day there.
Absolutely. So when I was going there, I was led to believe that this was going to be a residential hospital stay. I was used to hospital stays. I'd had multiple in and outpatient. So I was driven into Huntsville, Alabama to an office. And in the office is where they told me that they were actually driving me to a different location. This is where I split off with my mom. The group leaders came in and I was still being friendly with them and trying to speak to them, but that's not something that you do in this camp, which is not something that I knew at the time. I realized something was wrong when they grabbed my elbows to lead me out to the van. The van ride was silent. If you look up Elk River, it does say it's in Huntsville, Alabama, but it's actually, the facility is in Elkmont, Alabama. And as we arrived, we pulled up in a van, and you can see a big red barn. And that's kind of when I really understood that this wasn't what I was imagining in my mind. When we got there, they take you to a room with 2 staff members. You have to strip naked. You do a squat and cough like you would in jail. And then you change into your clothes, which is a pair of denim jeans and orange tops. We had 3 t-shirts and 3 sweatshirts. I was given my number, which was 657, and then filled in on the rules and the silence. They told me that there was no speaking unless I was called on, and to be called on, you would raise 2 fingers up in the air and wait for somebody to notice. Every door that you came to, you stop and you ask, "May I exit?" Once somebody answers you, you count off on your way out. That's 1 ma'am, 2 ma'am on your way out, everybody in line behind you. So that was kind of my first introduction to the rules and how severe this experience was going to be. Another thing that they made sure that we knew was that we were supposed to be holding other group members accountable. So if you saw somebody else breaking the rules, it's your responsibility to raise up your fingers and tell somebody, so and so was talking, so and so was singing, so and so was whatever they were doing. And you were treated better if you did do that. So there was significance behind it. I was wanting to maybe talk about the different kind of restrictions and consequences that we had.
Yeah, please.
So the communication restrictions were just, you could never speak unless called on and spoken to. If you wanted to talk to another member of your group, you would raise your hands, "May I ask so-and-so a question?" or "May I speak to so-and-so?" And you sometimes yes, sometimes no. There wasn't really any kind of, whether your group leader wanted to do it or not is basically it. And then your communication restrictions come with 3 levels of, consequences. The first one is called written comm, which means you need to write it down, then you can raise your hand, and you can show the written note to the group leader. The second level is called non-comm. That means you are not writing anything down, you're not talking to anybody. And then the last one, it kind of goes with a non-comm, is med-comm, where there's no reason for you to be speaking unless there's a medical emergency. And then the other kind of restriction that we experienced were separation kind of experiences. The first one would just be that one member, if you were experiencing level 1 separation, you would be standing at the back of your group. They weren't allowed to acknowledge that you were there. You would be doing the same things that they were doing, but off to the side away from them. Level 2 would be building ban, which means you can't go inside any of the buildings that were available to us, which would mean we weren't allowed to participate in school. We weren't allowed to go into the laundry area to wash our clothes. They have church available there, which is, people go to that whether they're religious or not, because you get to sit down inside, but you lose that privilege as well. And then the last level 3 was called the hill. And in the hill, you would go and you'd sit in this like little hole, and your group leader would sit at the top of the hole and watch you. And you need to be there for 3 days in complete silence, or they restart the time from the beginning. While you're down there, you don't sleep with the other campers. You sleep under a tarp on the ground. You use the bathroom in the woods. They bring you your food cold, and you need to start a fire to heat it up. They did not provide matches. They actually just provided flint and steel. And keep in mind, I was there from November through March. So it was cold, even though it's Alabama. It does get cold there. It did snow. There was ice. So if they couldn't heat their meal, they would just eat it cold. And I have one really specific memory of some kids who were down in the hole, and you can hear this kind of chink, chink, chink sound that goes with a flint and steel while you're trying to rub them together. And we walked past, and the group leader at the top of the hill looked at my group leader, and she goes, "This is the sound of my people," or "the song of my people," something like that. And I was just like, this is really a joking matter, you know? So they obviously weren't taking it seriously, but it was cold and it's hard to be down there. Nobody usually got out within 3 days because it's really hard to be silent for 3 days. I luckily
Yeah,
never experienced that though. I only got to level 2 building ban. I never had to be on the hill.
got you. This sounds so controlled, like at all moments of the day. It doesn't
There's
sound like
never.
you had.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't sound like you ever had a moment to actually be, you
No.
know. And you
Even
could.
our journaling was monitored. We were required to journal at least half a page a day. But then your group reader would read it and sign off. So you couldn't actually write any kind of therapy journaling entries because you needed to make sure that your group leader thought that this was helpful to your treatment or, something that they couldn't use against you.
Right. So was there like an internal level system too for sort of working up to having more privileges?
Actually, we had a phase system. They called it phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they didn't come with any increase in privileges, but it was more of like a measurement of how far you are in the program. You could move up and down the levels, whatever they wanted you to move. And you would get a little colored armband signifying what level you were at. Level 4 would be your graduation, and you get to go home unless your parents think that you're not ready to go home, in which case they have an extended program for people who've graduated, but their parents wanted them to stay.
Jesus.
But yeah, the only people who got any kind of like privileges were the people on the extended stay. They got to wear their own clothes and they stayed in these little cabins on the property. So they no longer had to sleep outside in teepees, which is where we slept.
So who decided the phases? Like, was there like a treatment team or a group of people trying to decide that each week?
Yes, there was a treatment team. From what I'm aware, there was a man who was like a therapist who was in charge of me. I didn't ever have any therapy sessions, but he was the one that my mother was in contact with. And then there was like a medical doctor, and then like the supervisors who were supervising my group leaders. So it wasn't anybody who was with me on a day-to-day basis. They were kind of judging it from afar.
Got you. And what was your outside contact with the world like while you were in there?
So during my time there, I spoke on the phone to my mom twice, and I confirmed that with her because I was like, did I really go 4 months without speaking to my mom? But yes, I had a phone call with her twice and one phone call with my father. And then the only person that could write letters to was my mother as well. So I couldn't write to any friends or relatives, and all of the letters were screened before they were sent to my mother and before I read the ones from my mother.
Got you.
Yes, so
Jesus.
I couldn't write
that-
anything particularly bad about the program to my mother.
right. And um, did anyone ever try to run away?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was a crazy day, honestly. There were two boys, and they were in my group. Their names were Sasha and Matt, and they were both people who were adopted here from Russia. And I remember them so vividly because I was just amazed by them because we were moving locations, and then all of a sudden, those two just took off into the woods. All of the people were ushered back into this the Red Barn area, and these two kids made it off the property, and the property is 200 acres, if I can't remember exactly.
Whoa.
But they got off the property onto a neighboring farm. In Alabama, they can shoot you if you're on their property too. And they stole a car. Neither of them had licenses yet, these kids. They stole a car. They crashed the car. They were arrested. The police put them in jail for maybe a week or two. And then the judge sentenced them to start the program from the beginning.
Ugh.
When they returned, they immediately made it against the rules to speak about their time in jail because the first thing they said was that they wish they could have stayed there. They were sleeping indoors. It was warm. There was a nice mattress. They could speak to people. They had snacks from a vending machine. We were all kind of like, shit, maybe we should try. And the group leaders were like, okay, no, we're never talking about this again. And we never did.
Yeah, I mean, it's my belief that jail is actually a lot better than any TTI program. I absolutely believe that.
Honestly, it was just the freezing cold that was the worst. I would have given anything to just be in a warm jail cell.
I bet.
So I mentioned that we slept outside in teepees, right?
Yeah.
So the teepees have a hole in the top, as a traditional teepee does, and so any heat escapes out the top. And when we get checked into bed, we pop like our bra straps and everything so that they know if there's nothing on our person. Then we get into the teepee. We take off our pants and we put them into our pack that we carried all of our belongings in from the camp. We put the pants in the pack, put our socks in the pack, then we tie our shoes to the pack and throw it out of the teepee. And it's so stupid. You yell, pants in the bag, and then they come and take your bag away. So you sleep in a sleeping bag with no pants on so that you don't run away in the night.
So, were you hiking on the daily?
Yeah, we had perimeter hikes. I wouldn't say every single day, but they were constant. All the way around the perimeter, there were hills and I am not an outdoor person. I struggled. I was always in the front of the line because I was the slowest person in the group, and it was just horrifying.
Yeah, I bet.
But there was,
yeah,
I just
go ahead.
wanted to add, there was a boy in my group. His name was David, and he would often be behind me in the line while we were on hikes. And our packs, we carried them with us on the hike. They're about 25 pounds. And this guy would walk behind me and lift my pack up off my back when we were going up hills. And I still think about him to this day. That was so helpful, and they had no idea he was doing it.
Oh, that's so kind.
Oh my God. The kids there were just, if you could actually get to talk to some of them, they were good. They were good kids. They cared.
I'm sure. Now, were staff allowed to put their hands on you, like restrain you, or?
Yeah. So that was called a containment. If they felt that you were about to run or if you were getting aggressive, they would kind of like drop into a stance and then put you on the ground. And depending on how hard you're fighting, they might put 2 more people on top of you at your shoulders, your waist, and your legs. And then they hold you there until they decided that you're calm enough to get up.
Gosh.
And they'd be face down in the dirt outside, like, oh my God, you could hear the screaming no matter where you were from these kids, because it was usually boys who are very not good at feeling their feelings, so they're freaking out, and it's only getting worse as it goes on.
Of course, yeah.
It was awful to listen to and see.
Do you have any memories about staff that you would like to share?
Yes, I had a couple good staff. I don't know what they were doing there, but there's 3 in particular that were kind. Emily Newman, I know her first name because we guessed it and she confirmed it. And then a woman named Miss Mactoff and Mr. Lovell, and they were so kind the whole time we were there. But then on the flip side, there were just insane staff there. Like you can tell that they were hired because they were hired because of who they are. In particular, the most memorable man, his name is Norman Sharp, and he was in charge of the education in the school building. And this man would come in, and every time he entered a room, you had to start clapping. You would clap and cheer and applause. And if you weren't doing it, he would target you and try to humiliate you in front of everybody. And we weren't allowed to call him Mr. Sharp the way that we did all the other staff. He required that all of the students call him Master S.
Whoa.
Like, is that not just disgusting? Like, who wants children to call them Master?
So strange.
I know. That is something I don't understand why they let him do that. And
So
then
how old? Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go for it, please.
Oh, there's also a man there named Eric Lee who works there, and from what I can tell, he still works there. But he was arrested for drug trafficking. I've seen the police report on that. And then there was another man named Mr. Van Zant, and he had insane anger issues. Like, he would yell and throw things. It was ridiculous. And then there are 2 staff that I have personal stories about that genuinely I will probably not forgive them ever. and it's not even that big of a deal, but it was to me at the time, you know? There was this one woman named Mrs. Cluxton, and she worked in the kitchen, and I was there one day and walking through to get my food, and she said, "Oh, aren't you excited about the warm weather coming?" Because it was springtime now. And I said, "Not really." And she asked me why. And I said, "Because when we wear t-shirts, you can see my underarm hair because we don't get to shave very often." And I was a young teenage girl. That mattered to me at that point in my life. It was, you know, socially acceptable. You wanted to be clean shaven at that time. But so I told her that, and she said, "Oh, well, they're supposed to be making sure that you have access to shave in the showers twice a week." And I had no idea that that was something I was supposed to be having access to. I said, "That never happens. We never have time." And so after that interaction, she went and told my group leader. And not an hour later, they pulled me into the kitchen and they put me on non-com for complaining.
Oh,
Even though she asked me, she literally persuaded me to tell her throughout the whole conversation. And I was just so appalled. Like, why would you ask me then?
yeah, that seems like a trap.
Yeah. And then the other guy, Mr. Chang, he was literally hired at least a month and a half after I got there. Everyone in my group had been there longer than this staff member had been there. And there was one night where we were in the basement of the school and we were allowed to play like a board game or something that night. And one of the guys in my group went to use the bathroom. He asked permission. Mr. Chang said yes. He used the bathroom, didn't realize that the toilet was out of order, flooded the bathroom. Because we're his group, we are required to help him clean up, and no big deal. It was an accident. We cleaned it up. We got the mops. We cleaned everything up. After that, we went to go head to bed, but we were late for our bed check-in. And the consequence for that is that you have to sleep outside on the deck under a tarp. And this man did not say one word to defend us. Oh my God, we were livid. Everyone in our group, oh my God, when we were walking down there, we were required to count off, 1 sir, 2 sir, 3 sir. I was at the front of the line and he told us, he said, "Count off." And I said, "1." And everybody in line behind me said numbers without the word sir. We were all so done with him. It felt like the biggest act of disobedience to us at the moment.
I bet.
Like, you don't deserve sir.
So I guess what I want to ask is, do you feel like, I mean, clearly you feel like whatever disorder you had before going in there wasn't being treated in there. You were just being controlled and
Yeah.
kind of, just, yeah, being used in a way.
Yeah, I didn't really have any one-on-one therapy sessions, maybe a couple with this woman, Mrs. Baker, who I didn't actually ever have day-to-day contact with or anything. And there was drug rehab, which the only thing I'd ever done was smoke weed. And then, well, I lost my train of thought a little bit there. Can you start with the question again?
Yes, I guess I'm just guessing that you didn't really receive any
Oh, right, individualized
treatment.
treatment.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
feel like this was just more kind of like behavioral control all the time. It didn't seem like you were getting any mental health treatment.
Yeah, I think it was more of a scare tactic because throughout the program, they would also remind us that they could move us down in the program or their parents could send us back. There actually was a boy there who graduated the program and was back within a week and had to start over. So we knew that
Yeah,
it was true and that we could potentially come back. So really, when it looks like, oh, the program's worked, they're back and they're well behaved and quiet, and that's because we know we could go right back. In fact, my mom actually kept my gear, my pack with all my clothes. She kept it in the garage.
God, it's awful.
Oh my gosh.
So it gets time to leave for you there. How long were you there in total?
I was there from the middle of November to the middle of March, or maybe the end of March, so about 4.5 months.
Okay. And so you get ready to leave, and what happens when you go home? What happens then?
So first, before we go home, we get this, like, it's an exit letter that you receive from your parents, and it's just pages on pound pages of what your expectations are when you get home, what is going to happen, what you need to do. Basically, when I got home, I didn't have any access to phone calls with friends and stuff. I could call my family. I didn't have internet access. In fact, none of my friends, I had one friend, my very best friend, who knew where I was, and none of my friends knew where I was. I had just disappeared off the planet. I was enrolled in school my senior year, But before they would take me, they needed a doctor's note releasing the accommodations my previous school had given me because they couldn't keep me safe, quote unquote, with what I needed help with.
Right.
And actually, immediately after I got out of there, I ended up having foot surgery on both of my feet because I was having such severe problems. And I'm sure that that camp where I was on my feet every day in these boots all day long, it definitely exacerbated the problem.
Right. That's awful.
But I became really good at faking it. If you talk to my mom, she really truly believed that was feeling better. I was doing better when I got home. I lied through my teeth because I was so afraid to get sent back there. So it kind of, as I gained more independence, I went to college. I ended up actually withdrawing myself, and I moved back across the country closer to my friends previously without telling my mom. And I let her know once I got there because it was just, I needed to get away.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you experience any issues after from everything you went through? Like,
I'm actually still, I have PTSD from my experience. I still have flashbacks. Anytime the weather drops, anytime it's cold, I just immediately I'm thinking about it. That's actually why I agreed to this podcast at this point in time, because you posted it right at November. That's when they took me, and this is when I am thinking about it the most. It's on my mind. I can't let it go. People who know me already know the story, and they're just like, yeah, we know, it's okay. You can tell us again, but we know.
yeah, I totally understand. I totally get that. Yeah,
There was actually one other experience I wanted to speak on while I was there.
please.
It was disclosed, my mom said that it was disclosed that I had this medical condition. Right, as an adult, I was diagnosed it's an abdominal migraines. But at that point, I wasn't diagnosed. There was no medication I was on to treat it. It was just constant nausea, sometimes vomiting. To my knowledge, my mom let them know ahead of time that that was going to happen. And I was constantly throwing up. But when I told the group leaders, it was taken as she's trying to get out of physical activity. She doesn't want to do PT before breakfast. She doesn't want to go on a perimeter hike, so she's pretending that she's sick. So at that point, it's kind of like, why am I even telling them? So I just stopped telling my group leaders. I would throw up and I'd move on with my day. And a week after I made that decision, I was pulled aside. They said that I was intentionally hiding the fact that I was throwing up and that is self-harm, as maybe they think I'm binging and purging. Well, I couldn't have been binging in this camp, but I was throwing up on purpose, purging. And they put me on one-to-one in the bathroom. And I was on that for months. A group leader would just stand right in front of me while I sat on the toilet. A month. And I don't understand how they made that conclusion. There were so many people telling them. I mean, I had medical records. It was awful. And I had trauma as a child with a medical condition that I had. And so I really cannot go to the bathroom if somebody else is in the bathroom. So what happened is that I would hold it until I absolutely was positive I couldn't hold it anymore, or wait until I got a shower.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys have group showers there, or was it individual showers?
So it was like an outdoor shower thing with multiple showers inside, and we would go. Our groups would all be scheduled at different times for showers, and then we do a boy group and a girl group. And our showers were insane. Like, you get into the shower and you wait until she says it's time. And you got 4 minutes to take your clothes off. You've got 4 minutes with the water running, and then you have 4 minutes to get dressed again. And if you are not out after that 4 minutes of getting dressed, that's a consequence right there.
Ugh.
4 minutes is not enough to be clean.
No, it's not enough. No,
The time goes
we had
ridiculous. In the
yeah
morning when we got up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no. Please keep going.
Oh, in the morning when we got up, we would have 5 minutes to we would get our packs thrown into the teepees, and we'd have 5 minutes to get dressed and then get our stuff into the pack. And it was really difficult to get our sleeping bag into the pack. So that was another time goal. And then even when we went to use the toilets, the bathrooms, we would be outside the bathroom and she'd say, okay, make a time goal. How long is it going to take you to use the toilet? And then we'd have to come up with something, but it'd have to be something reasonable. You can't be like, I need 20 minutes in the bathroom, because she'd be like, okay, you have 3 minutes in the bathroom.
Right.
And I was so appalled. This might be a little too much information. I have IBS. Like, I need time in the bathroom sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was humiliating, really. As a teenager, you know, you don't want to discuss those things with people next to you.
Yeah, in my program we had 5 minutes to shower, and we had a certain amount of times we could use the bathroom per day. So, you know, I still have bladder problems from that because I used to have to hold so much. You know?
Yeah, they literally cause physical damage to the children
Yeah.
around their camps.
Yeah.
There was actually this one little girl that I remember. Her name was Tinka, and she was adopted from Bulgaria. She was 12 years old, and she had very broken English. And in my opinion, just based on what I've witnessed, I would think that she is some form of special needs, possibly autistic. And they would pick her up by her feet and arms and bring her out of the building, screaming at the top of her lungs. And it was awful to watch because she was the sweetest little girl when she wasn't freaking out. She would,
Yeah.
she didn't speak fluent English, though. She didn't understand like jokes or sarcasm or things like that. And there's this one time where she was speaking when she wasn't supposed to, and the group leader looked at her and she goes, "Tinka, zip it." And Tinka goes, "I no have zipper." The group leader could not even get mad. It was so funny. But she did
That's
not belong.
funny.
She did not belong there. She was so little and she didn't understand. If she was adopted from a different country, you know, they just adopted her and put her right in here because, you know, she always had special needs.
Yeah. That's awful.
I wish I could find her because I do wonder what happened with her because she was still there when I left and she had gotten there before I arrived.
Are you able to communicate with anyone that you were there with now?
I'm friends with some of them on Facebook, the people that were in my group, but we don't really talk too much. I spoke to one recently, who also said that they have flashbacks this time of year, but I think everybody kind of just doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to think about it.
Yeah, I get it.
That's hard.
Well, I think it's very brave of you to talk about it and to think about it and to come on here and tell your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And this is where I'm going to ask Marcus and Hammy if they have any questions.
Hey guys, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
So that was an amazing interview, and we took notes and found out some other information specifically about Eric Lee, about what was going on with that guy.
Oh yeah.
Some very strange business regarding the parent company Pinnacle. I don't know if you're like aware of who
Alabama
owns
Elk
Elk
River
River.
Development Agency.
Pinnacle's a very large organization, also owned by Miss Karen Lee, who had some very interesting things going on between the owner-operator of Pinnacle, this other guy, John Wilmer, or no, excuse me, that's the attorney, pardon me. So what I was looking at, are you familiar with the RAISE Alternative School Program, like RAISE, like what that is?
No, I didn't take part in that.
Okay.
Yeah, to me it sounds like they based it upon a prison program. Like in Oregon, in our state penitentiaries here, we have the Oregon Accountability Model, and it was the same consequences, not talking, and it was like us. Well, I was in prison, and it was like they wanted us to go tell on our other people, and then they convinced us that, oh, you're not telling, you're just holding them accountable for the inappropriate behavior. It's like, no, I'm telling on this guy, and he's gonna beat me up. And we're gonna get in a fight.
Right.
But that's
There was a lot of tension because of that.
yeah, I could see that. It was the same, based on a prison program, and reading on history in there. Oh my goodness, just the Norman Sharp alone. Good thing.
Oh my God, that man.
Sorry to say, but yeah, he passed away in December of 2022. So that's a good thing.
He did?
Yeah, it said a person named Mansell Norman Sharp passed away in Warrior, Alabama, in December of 2022. He's buried he's buried at the Cedar Grove Cemetery.
Oh my God, I want to stand on his grave. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Whoa, what the hell was going on?
Yep. See, that was his evil ghost trying to come back.
There we go. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
We got him.
Yeah, we got him.
That makes me really glad. Honestly, he gave me terrible, terrible vibes.
Well, he was actually before the treatment center when the Elk River Village started with the development agency in the Elkmont Rural Village. He was there in the mid-1970s way before the school even started. So that was probably their money thing, and they just branched it off into a treatment center.
Oh yeah, that was the other weird thing about this place in general. Sorry, we're sharing a microphone just to make sure that we can adjust the sound if it gets too wonky. But the other thing that I really was curious about, and I know there's not really a good answer, is that the list of things that they're supposedly treating is so long. It's like everything from video game addiction to like you're a prostitute on the street. But we all know that the truth of the matter is that really none of that is going on. There's no real treatment going on whatsoever. It's more you get like you were saying, like an intake interview with a quote unquote real like psychiatrist, right? Who's kind of giving you like an intake assessment. They're paid to give you an intake assessment. There's a checklist. It's not really that big of a deal in a sense. They're not going in depth about your issues, so to speak. They may take some notes, but that's pretty much the extent of any like so-called treatment. What I noticed was the idea of the treatment is that, okay, parents, ready? Here's your kid back, and here's all of the stuff that we didn't, well, they don't know this exactly, but here's all the stuff that we didn't do for your kid. And now it's your turn to do all of these things that we recommend that you do. Like, don't let him go here because, keep him over here. Don't let him talk about this. Make sure that they do this.
Continue policing like a prison.
Right. It's just like a parole system. But it's like the parents aren't even necessarily aware that they're like the parole officers in a lot of ways.
Correct.
It's a ruse,
much.
that kind of thing where they go, okay, and here's all the stuff that we taught your kid. Now it's your job to make sure that they remember it. But that was never true to begin with,
Yeah, I got to call your counselor or I'm going to get in trouble.
Right.
Right, that kind of stuff. It's
It's just a mini prison. Looking at pictures, the way it was set up, it looks like a minimum security prison. With no fences or nothing. It's technically a minimum security prison.
It felt like one.
Hammy found that. I think that's the right image. If it is, I'm going to use it for the the thumbnail.
That could have been one in Utah, which is even going through worse.
It's like an overhead shot of the whole facility. I don't know if it's the outdoorsy one, but it just looks like a prison, really. Oh, yeah. But I don't know if it's was your place more like woodsy?
So it was like woods with a couple buildings sprinkled in there, like a school building, a laundry building, and some outhouse type bathrooms.
So it was very primitive, right? Okay, yeah, I got you.
Oh yeah, we were in the woods all the time.
Yeah, this is a different place. This is more like
that's the one in
this is more like the place in Utah. What Diamond Ranch?
Well, I think there's 22 people either quit. 22 people either were fired or resigned from this treatment center in Utah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of discussing that a little bit when you guys were talking about how Hammy just really wasn't that aware that these places are like all over the place, like they just pop up like weeds. But then there's these other places like this; they're still in, apparently in full operation, and also like what's really disturbing in a lot of cases is they seem to be backed by, if you go back far enough, by like real institutions, or they'll have like a real psychiatrist on their board to give them that sheen of like responsibility and like legitimacy. But then you get to like the frontline staff and even like so-called counselors or managers, and nearly, I mean, I've never heard of a good one, and I'm still, as almost a half joking mission of what I wanted to do with this podcast in the beginning was to say, okay, they truly must not be all bad, but they're all bad.
Literally.
Like, where's a good? Like, there isn't a good one. Why? Why not? Why isn't there a good one?
I mean, we've talked about this too, Natalie, like extensively. Like we've talked, like if you are truly a good person, you'll see what's going on in one of these places and you'll walk right out. You won't want to be a part of it. Right. Anyone who continues to stay and take a paycheck, regardless of being a nice staff or whatever, they're still part of, this machine that it's hurting kids.
Completely.
You know what I mean?
And it's clearly hurting kids too. It's not like, oh, I heard about that. It's like right in front of you. I mean, like I've said this before too. I had to leave regular adult treatment as a drug and alcohol tech because I could not handle giving these people more drugs to get them off of the drugs that they were on. It struck me as so counterintuitive and weird that I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And whether that's an ethical or right choice or not, for me, it was something that it took a matter of a couple of months, and I realized that this is something I can't do. So I left. And I think that,
but
I think with things that are like clearly more serious and really like pose an issue with how you treat people, like especially who are children, I think the reaction should be much more swift in like the assessment of what you're doing there, because like I said, they're all bad. Like you can find plenty of great drug and alcohol treatment centers for adults. They're all over the place. So but that's not what they really are anyway. See, that's the other part of the lie. They are absolutely not drug and alcohol treatment centers.
Right. We have one class.
It's right. You have a class. That's
little worksheets that they print out.
That is accredited by some organization called Cognia. Right? Like, oh, that sounds smart. Cognia Incorporated. Like, oh, they changed their name from academics with a K. That's the organization that's making sure that your curriculum is all like up to date and college prep. That's another thing that they like to advertise, that their school curricula is it's for the aspiring student who still wants to go to college, even though he might have some issues.
Yeah, the schooling was not good there.
It's disturbing, is what it is. A lot of worksheets.
And we had actually computers where we were doing online things, and then they would have these maybe 3 teachers who would sit in there, but they didn't know how to teach us exactly. Like at the end there with my math, this lady was basically just doing my math homework for me because she didn't know how to explain what to do.
Right, because they're not actually teachers. They're like clerks who used to answer the phones up front, and they have a degree, maybe. It says so. I mean, they went to Bible college.
And honestly, a lot of them were kind of like checked out because a lot of the kids there didn't want to do school. Like, we don't care about our grades anymore. We don't care about this. And now the teachers kind of just check out, like, well, they don't care. We don't care either.
Well, that's the other part of that too, is that, there's a few factors. One, they're not real teachers, so they're not really getting real teacher pay, because everybody knows they're not real teachers. Everybody knows. The school the administrators, the people themselves who are being hired as teachers, the kids know it. They're called teachers. They're not really teachers. So they handle a lot of worksheets and like clerk the class, basically. They'll make sure that everyone's sitting down and being quiet.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then they have they check out because they know like what a shitty thing that they're doing, in a sense, like, and they may like block that out too, how like harmful they're being to the world in general. Really, they can't leave. They can't find it. They're not going to get another job that's as easy. That basically pays their car payment, so they're definitely not quitting. They can't quit. They can't quit, so they might as well be nice. It kind of that gets so disturbing because the nice ones, the good ones, the ones
most of them are using, and they're not going to get tested there because they were already tested one time to get the job, and most of the treatment centers that I've seen, half of the counselors are using.
Well, that may come into play if they were actually like considered real treatment centers too. There's part of that too. This is really just warehousing kids so they
for money,
and so they're not bothering their parents.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Because
the thing is like if you have this huge variety of kids with all of these apparent problems, like this guy stabbed somebody for God's sake, and this other kid smoked pot, and then some other kid like wouldn't stop playing video games, and the quiet girl Tinka, like who knows, like she was just adopted and shuffled off in there. There's no way that getting all of these like so-called problems together solves anything. It's goofy. You probably forged some really nice friendships, though. Ultimately, I guess maybe the best thing that could come out of any of this is that you all had to go through this together, and in some cases, like really made some like really lifelong great connections. That's the only positive thing that I could think of. And you know what? When people come out of this stuff and they say, "Oh, it was really good," in some ways, in a lot of cases, that's what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. They're talking about those things.
And then there was actually one kid there at my camp who did not want to go home. He liked it there better than at his home. I don't know what was going on in his home. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant, but he was happy to be there, and he wasn't trying to go home. He was there when I left, and
Maybe he became staff.
exactly.
He could have been, like just graduated up into staff membership because he was fully, indoctrinated, and that's, where he wanted to be. At a certain point, you can justify a lot of stuff. People really good at getting used to things. We're really good at it.
I mean, I think the bottom line though is that this place is a complete fucking con.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So, do you know were most of the kids volunteer or court appointed?
Yeah. I think that the majority of them are court appointed. I don't think a lot of people
that's where it comes.
Is that? Yeah, we never really explored that too much, Alexei.
So the court's sending the kids there, the state's paying the program, and the program's sucking in the money and flushing the kids through. Because each kid they get in new, they get a new chunk of money.
But the judge is always also probably taking kickbacks from the program.
True. That's happened here in Douglas County, Oregon. It happens all the time. Now it's ringing a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, is that really in most cases, it's not totally strictly voluntary, or is it?
You go here, you go to jail. You take the choice.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And of course you're going to pick jail because that stays off your record.
And then some of us would get there and screw your program, put me to jail. I'd rather do the time.
Exactly.
So,
oh my God.
So
I've been there, done that.
So kid catches a vandalism charge for spray painting on the school wall, right? That kid's going there.
And he smoked a joint.
And he has weed on him, and whatever.
So his life screwed up forever because he has some weed.
Right.
Yeah.
But changed my mind. At least I'm not being abused in jail.
Yeah.
Right. You just forget sentences.
Well, that's really that's interesting.
This is another show in itself because it just blow up more because that court appointed stuff is what's screwed. It's forcing adults and kids. You're going to do this or you're going to go to prison.
Well, you know how much these programs cost too. It's incredible.
Thousands.
Like literally $10,000, $15,000 a month. Like no joke.
From what I'm aware, my mom went bankrupt sending me here. I think that's kind of part of why she can't admit that this wasn't a great decision because that's so much money. Like, I can't imagine spending so much money to have somebody abuse my child.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, once you get to a certain point where you're invested and you've invested that much in doing this to your child, how can you ever see it the other way around? You've already put all your money into it.
Sure, it's the sunken cost fallacy, right?
Are there any open court cases?
You're already in so deep.
Correct.
You have to convince yourself that it was worthwhile.
Is anybody suing them? Have any open cases?
I saw one case. I don't think, I'm sure it's not open still, but I did find one where they said that one of the kids was holding a plank as punishment, and the group leader, every time he dropped out of the plank, would hit him in the sides and in the stomach or the back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can't, even in the military. In the military, they can get right into your face, but they cannot put a hand on you.
You're an adult. That's why. It's because you're an adult.
And it's the same way with those programs. They can get in your face, and you might even get a little piece of spit, but they're not supposed to lay a hand on you.
Right. So this last thing, I know we didn't get to it, and we're probably going to, we've been going about an hour. We probably want to wrap it up, but I was talking to Natalie earlier, chatting with her. I found the Elk River podcast. It's looks like it's defunct. Their last episode was in September of 2021, but they actually have a podcast and they have the transcript up, and it's called "Navigating the Parental Guilt Trap." They go step by step to reassure these parents that they're doing the right thing.
Don't feel
bad, and it's kind of wild. Like, buckle up and get ready for our ride as we talk about navigating the parental guilt trap. And, and she says, it's Holly and Penny. They're talking it up, and thank you so much. I do see guilt. We see it often. A lot of guilt that we hear on a daily basis comes from parents who simply feel like they aren't good enough, that they haven't done enough for their child, and that no good parent would ever reach beyond the parent boundaries in order to bring a child to the place they need for help. So they're struggling with placement, they're struggling with a treatment plan, and they're struggling with how to make this all come about. When you think about it, you see what they're struggling with. They're not struggling with guilt. They're struggling with how to figure out how to pay for it all.
Because right here, it says that they accept insurance only for the program. And then, however, it seldom covers the entire program.
Right.
So even though you got the insurance, well, the insurance is done. You still owe me. And that's where the people are going bankrupt.
Well, right, because you can't insure a school. Like, you can't buy insurance for a school. You can buy insurance for a treatment program, but that treatment program has a limited time frame.
And no low income because they don't take Medicaid or nothing.
No.
So if we live in the projects on the other side of the tracks, it ain't happening.
You're joining the gang.
Yeah.
That's right. You're not going to the treatment center. You're going to hang with the homies and probably have a much better life.
Yeah. You're going to start a podcast.
That's right.
That's what you do. You go out and get it when you start a podcast.
You get everybody in the car and you start a podcast. In fact, oh my gosh, this is unreal. Yeah, I can't. I'm looking at an anime. Okay, I'm looking at the treatment center. I'm looking at the Elk River. Elk River is going to hear about this.
Oh yeah, we ain't done.
But the thing is that I'm looking at their websites, and there's a picture of a couple in a car, and the lady, it's this like crayon drawing of a car, like facing a car driving towards you. The husband, and the wife with a map, with a big excited look on her face. They're navigating the parental guilt trip. It's incredible. Oh. It's incredible. A trip no parent wants to take. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Guilt is right.
Wow. Phase 1 of expectations. 18 of them.
See, we've unleashed a monster here, Alexei, with Hammy, because
I will learn all group members and staff names too. I will put a positive effort into all activities.
See.
Oh my goodness.
We have unleashed a new, very strong ally against TTI. It looks like today, which is nice.
Oh yeah, I got something though. Google, here I come.
Oh my God.
Hammy.
Yes.
Hammy, I don't like introducing people to this, but I do in a way. I want everyone to know because it is happening. Yeah. It is happening now. Go ahead, Natalie.
I don't know why, but I kind of almost received validation from the shock of others. I almost want to hear people say, "Oh my God, that's horrible."
Here is the part I will end you with my talk today. I'm 56 years old. When I was 14 years old, I had my wrist broken in one of them programs in East LA, California. So I'm with you on what you're saying now. It's not nothing new. This has been going on for years, and it needs to be talked about.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt at times, but it's got to be talked about.
And Natalie, you're so brave for doing this. I really appreciate you.
I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's
it's really important because kids shouldn't be treated like that.
No matter what you do.
That's it.
I hope that this reaches parents who are considering sending their child away. There's nobody, you should not send them. You need to be in contact with your kid. You need to see. You can't just trust strangers that are telling you they're doing okay.
Right. That's an important thing to bring up because, that's really the only gap between a parent sending their kid and a parent not, is getting in the middle of that decision somehow. Right.
Sorry. I was just going to add that some kids are also treated better when they get out because they've earned some sort of trust by going through the program. So when they look back at their life, they say, my life got better after the program. They helped me. But in reality, they just convinced your parents.
Right.
Right.
While you were being abused. Yeah. It's kind of it's a big trick, really.
It is a big trick.
Yeah.
It's all fuckery. It's all smoke and mirrors, this shit. Because you get sent away. You have things done to you that your parents don't really know, but it doesn't matter because your parent is happy because they think you're safe. And then you get back and you've got the program kind of backing you to pretend that you've actually been fixed. It's a bit fuck.
Well, it's time to fill the car back up with smoke. We just wore that one out.
How long did you last in a hot car?
Facts that the heat index that day was 105 degrees. Hot car.
We don't yet know about a potential third suspect who was seen speeding away from federal agents at the scene. The whole thing has been a mystery to neighbors.
Hot car.
This is not an accident. This is pure negligence.
On Tuesday, and we know it was really hot that day. Hot car. Joining us live in the Alert Center.
How long did you last in a hot car?
Facts that the heat index that day was 105.